Today's podcast is sponsored by Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allows you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. Anchor will then distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. That's ANCHOR.FM.
Hello?
Hello, hello, hello.
Hi, did I do it? I guess I did it right, huh?
You did it right. You did it right. How are you this morning?
I'm good. I'm doing pretty good. Just got through from doing my morning walk and chopping me up some onions and some like pieces of turkey to go in an omelet. But other than that, I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. There's 85 degrees outside, so for us, that's a win here in Texas.
Okay. That's
a win.
good.
I think we're going to probably get some rain, so,
Awesome.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
So, I called you, have you on my podcast today because we share something in common as far as the entertainment industry and being mothers who had young kids in the I had, and you still have a grown person, but we had young kids in the entertainment industry at a certain point. And I always get people asking me, what can they do to secure their kids in this industry? And it's just not a question you can answer off the bat.
No.
Because you don't want to deter anyone from, following their dreams, but you kind of want them to be prepared for what they're possibly walking into. So I thought, what better moment or way to kind of get some of that information out than have a podcast and talk to you, and not just my own opinion, but get someone else's opinion on having kids in the entertainment industry when you see or recognize talent in your kids.
Awesome. No, I think you said it perfectly when you said that, there's no one way, nobody can tell you how to go about doing it. And it's basically just, does your child want to do it? That's my first question. Sure. That I ask people when they, come to me and they ask me questions. I just say, does your child want to do it? My daughter wanted to do it, and it didn't have anything to do with money or fame or anything. She just she was the kid that would entertain in the backyard at the parties and get up and dance for her grandmother and that kind of vibe. So that would be my first thing.
Tons of personality. Always had tons of personality.
Yeah.
And just to give people a backstory of that, what you're talking about. Your daughter is Keke Palmer. And and you're Sharon Palmer. So just to give people backstory of who you are and that you know what you're talking about here. Because a lot of
Well, I can say this. I know what I'm talking about when the deal comes to my daughter. I don't. People ask me to manage them and all that kind of stuff, and I've always shied away from that because I just, I don't feel like I don't really have the passion to manage other people, and I had no choice but to manage my daughter because that's your daughter, and you don't want her around strangers and all that kind of stuff. So parents kind of get thrust into that situation, and I'm one of the few parents that I started out with in this business that actually still works in management with their child, and I often get that, like, how do you still do that, and how are you able to maintain that relationship, and it's nothing's easy, but the one key is that when they become adults, you have to let them be adults. You have to let them make their own decisions, and the role changes. Before, you're the one making all of the decisions and praying and hoping that your decisions are the right ones. And then when they become old enough where they can speak for themselves in meetings, then you kind of got to move to the side and let them do that. And just your role becomes counselor then, so I'm more of a less manager and more counselor I give my opinion. So,
But to be fair, for someone who's known you guys for a long time, from when the kids were teenagers, young teenagers, you've also always stayed a parent, which is hard to do in this industry. I noticed for a lot of people to kind of
absolutely.
stay a parent and then be a manager and not go into that realm of we're friends. Or I remember I remember meeting parents and kids when I was living in California. We were just new out there, and they would say stuff like, to me, they would say stuff like, when they're at work, you're the manager, you're not the mom, and when you go home, you're the mom. And I always thought, well, that's a peculiar way to look at it. And I never really felt that, because I was like, I'm the mom all the time. I'm never gonna stop being mom. Like, it's not a switch. You can't turn it on and off. And I
Right.
remember when I met you, that was one of the things that attracted me to our friendship, because you parented around the same lines that I did, and I could respect that.
Thank you so much for that. I mean, like, I didn't know any other way to be. I mean, I'm not gonna turn off being a parent and turn it on. I didn't subscribe to that, but I'm not gonna judge how other parents chose to do the business. That's on them if that's how they wanted to do it. But I just tried to be. I basically just, first of all, I'm a praying woman, so I pray a lot, and
Hmm.
I just ask God to guide me, guide my heart, guide my tongue, just help me speak when I'm supposed to speak, help me to be quiet when I'm supposed to be quiet. And how I approached that was on the set. I just tried to be as quiet as possible. I tried to be a voice for my, but not a hindrance. So I didn't go out of my
Right.
way to introduce myself and make myself so known on the set. I kind of just spoke to the tutor, who the tutor was, made that relationship, because that person, that tutor, is probably one of the most intimate people that your child is going to deal with. And so,
and and the most important.
yeah, yeah. And so,
Yeah.
my relationships were with the tutor. My relationships
Hmm.
were with the hair and makeup people, people that had an intimate relationship with my daughter. I wasn't one of the parents that tried to swooze the directors or the producers, because it was just my understanding that once they booked the job, you didn't,
Hmm.
you don't have to chase the director and the producers anymore. They've already
Right.
approved you.
Right.
So don't waste your energy on that. Just make sure your child has what they need on the set, and then from that, then people will respect what it is you do and what you bring to the table. They'll say, "Oh
Right.
wow, that kid is going to school and they show up on time and she knows her lines." I don't think people really understand how just being professional and being on time and just having a good team, it that keeps you working a lot more sometimes than talent.
I agree. Um, Tell me, I get a lot of people who tell me, I don't know too much about these, but they're like, oh, the ABC and Disney are coming to town, and they're meeting up at hotels, and we're taking our kid down there to audition. And they go down there, and then they're like, oh, they picked them, and
Oh
we
wow.
just have to go to Florida and pay,
Right.
up teen amount of money to get there, and then they may sign us, and then we can get a contract with, such and such Disney or Nickelodeon or something like that.
Right.
And I always cringe when I hear um, people tell me these type of things, or when they say, oh, someone's coming here and they told me my child was this and I need to get them here, and it's only going to cost this much, and I have to pay for the headshots and da 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 da
Yeah.
da.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I always try to, in the best way possible, not discourage individuals, but save them some money, because I always say, one thing that I learned about this business going in is that it's about relationships.
Absolutely. Well,
I've
yeah.
never been put in front of anyone with my daughter, and it was because she auditioned for something and someone sent her there. It was always about this person knew that person, and they introduced us to this person, and then we got a meeting with that person, and so on and so forth. Um, it was never and I've never went out and tried to get her in the industry. Everything just kind of fell,
Right.
and was like, here's an opportunity, fell in your lap. I'm talking about, when I say fell in your lap, I'm talking about you're out in the streets looking for some corn, and boom, there somebody is, like, not looking for it whatsoever.
Right.
And then you just meet someone, and they know someone else, and then those relationships are formed, and boom, you're on a syndicated show. You're on, another show. You meet this person, they got a developmental deal. Like, everything always moved like that for us. So I never was put in a situation to where I ever had to pay anything to do anything. So
Right.
I always cringe when I hear people say that, because I'm like, that's probably not the right way to go about it, because I don't know anything about that, about paying anything to get anywhere.
Well, I mean, okay, there are obvious scams, in
Right.
everything, not just in the entertainment business. But when I first started with both of my daughters, because I actually started with my oldest daughter, L'Oreal, who's 4 years older than Keke, and I started with her. And back when I was working with her, like in 1990, I would say around there was a lot of what you call photography scams. Like, I
Hmm.
can't speak on Disney or Nickelodeon or any of those. All of my experiences with Disney and Nickelodeon have been legit. So I don't know
Hmm.
any, but I've heard of
Mine
things.
too.
What I've
Yeah.
heard of is third party agencies. Like, if I started an agency, the Sharon Palmer agency, then I rent a room at a hotel and I have all these parents come and I say, hey, I can connect you to Disney. That happens a lot. Okay. And give me
Hmm.
$50 and that is just a scam, and people do it, but at the end of the day, when I first business, there was a legitimate photography kind of scam that was going on, where you would, your child would go take pictures, and then they would go, oh, your child looks amazing. And, let's get them in the industry. And then the parent would end up paying $500 for headshots, thinking that, that meant they were going to be in commercials and stuff like that. Now, that was really big in Chicago when I first started in the business. And I kind of I did just looked at that like, man, that's a scam. I kind of picked up on it right away. I had been an actress in Chicago, like local theater stuff. So I had a couple of friends in the industry that kind of hit me to a lot of things. None of them didn't know anything about the child world, that's a whole nother world. But they
Right.
were in acting. They were professional actors doing like episodes of Law and Order type of thing, which was big. I mean, that was huge for you to be a Chicago artist, not living in New York or LA, and being able to be a working actor. So these were some of my friends, some of my closest friends, and they would tell me, "Oh, that doesn't sound right. I wouldn't pay any money for that type of job." So I was blessed in that regard to have guidance. But no, to answer your question in this most simplistic way, you should not be paying people money for
Hmm.
auditions. You should not be paying people money for connections. You should not be
Hmm.
paying anybody any money. How the industry truly works is you go out and get jobs via agents, via managers, and whatever you
Right.
make on that job, you pay them a commission. In
Right.
acting, the commission is 10%. So if you have a manager, you should only pay them 10%. I've heard people paying their managers 15, 20%. That's ridiculous. I mean,
Yeah.
so and then the agents is 10%. That's across the board. So if your child goes out to LA and they get an agency and they book I don't know, a Doritos commercial, then they should
Hmm.
be paying the agency that helped them book that job 10%. If they don't have a manager, then they don't have a manager. And the money off the top. So
Right.
no money you should not, nothing should leave your hands going to an agent. They should deduct their 10%. Now, something that someone hit me to when I first went to California, and parents the first thing I would say to parents, they need to educate themselves. They need to really read and research before they even think about going out to California or New York or wherever they're trying to go. Atlanta, that's a hot spot. There's some areas in Louisiana that people go to work. Before you do any of that with your kids, you need to really, really, really research and understand what it is you're doing. And you need to have a group of people that you can talk to, parents like you and I speak, and people that you can bounce ideas and information off. Because one parent told me the best information I had, which was your money don't have to come through the agency. It could come directly to you. You
Yeah.
There's no law or rule that's saying when you do a commercial, it's in fact you can mandate it comes to you, because
Right.
the agency will get it, and they'll sit on it for 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah. And it's weird because I didn't know that until I remember Brittany did a project with I want to say CBS. She did a episodic with CBS, two episodics with CBS parent company, and they sent the checks directly to me.
That was great.
And they sent them direct. They mailed them to us. And I remember I was out of town, and I got home to all this mail, and I had all these checks. And I remember calling the agency and saying, hey, they sent these checks to me, and they wanted me to take the checks and bring them to them,
Oh my
so
goodness.
they could then cut it and then send it back to me. And I was like, well, why don't I just cash them and then just bring you your part? Why do I have to then wait a few weeks
Exactly,
for
because
you guys to
because
send
this
them
is the
back? Because
this is the reality. Some people might say, "Well, I mean, what's the big deal? You're going to get the check." No, this is the big deal. The agency has hundreds of clients. They're not
right.
Your child is really not that much of a priority to them, even though you might think that. They got
Hmm.
100 kids, and so they're getting 100 checks. So they're putting it in their bank accounts. They're getting the interest off of all that money, and you're sitting at home, you're in an apartment, you're not from California. And this is really for the parents that are traveling out to California. Not as much for the kid, not as much for the parents that already. This is for the fellow travelers like I was and like you were, leaving our
Hmm.
homes, leaving everything that we knew, and going out to California. You're out there in an apartment, and you're trying to feed your kids, and you're trying to
Right.
hustle, and you got a $3,000 check floating around that's sitting somewhere on somebody's desk.
Right.
No, that
Right.
money is important to you because it can help you continue what it is. And nobody, um, like I said, I can only speak for my family. We did not go out there with no money. We didn't. My
Right.
husband drew down his pension. So we had about 20, $30,000.
Right.
Once you get out there and you
Hmm.
start paying bills and traveling, and you're in your car all the time, $20,000 is gone. Especially if it's no more coming in. In
Right.
4 months, you're broke. So that $3,000 check that you just made from doing this Doritos commercial, it represents your whole being, your whole life. You're paying your bills and stuff. So
Right.
that's why I tell parents to we seem to be very grateful. And
Hmm.
it's good to be humble. My mother taught me to be humble, and I taught my children to be humble. But the thing is this: sometimes we are too passive when it comes to the
Hmm.
agencies and stuff like that, because they are not the ones working with our kids, learning lines. They're not the ones that's driving all over LA, making sure they get where they need to be, making sure they get their schooling and all that. And we are parents, and that is our responsibility. Don't get me wrong. But
Hmm.
we, for some reason, when we deal with the agency, it's so, oh, whatever you say, and oh yeah, because you don't want to upset the program. And my thing
Yeah.
is, this is what the program is: your
Right.
child is one of 100 kids. That's
Right.
it. That's the program. So
Well, one of the things you taught me, they work for you.
yeah, yeah, and they're not gonna come to your house when you ain't got no food on the table. So they're
For
not gonna
real.
do that. Not gonna do it, and nor should they. But what the point I'm trying to make is, you're the one in charge. You're the one responsible for learning all the lines with your child. I mean, all of us parents, we can actually stand on the set and say all the lines. while they doing the scene, we can sit there and say the lines with them because we've had to work with them. So my thing is, if we're the ones who made the sacrifice, we're the ones leaving our homes, our jobs, our families, drawing down pensions, and going out there and driving them everywhere and doing this, then why all of a sudden are we passive when we got to deal with the agent? And I don't mean be belligerent. I just mean assertive. This is a business. Your family has made a, so you have to look at it like that. So would you walk into your business and, well, whatever you say, well, yeah, well, I don't want to upset anybody. I don't, I never did prescribe to that mentality.
And to give people a better understanding, when you're working with an agent, majority of the time that agency has 3 or 4 little kids that look like your kid.
Oh yeah.
So it's not like they're out there fighting for you and your kid. You went out there and did your part and got that part. They didn't go out and say, hey, give it to this person, because they have a roster of other children.
Well, yeah, it's like an agency is like a for lack of better word, an assembly line.
Right.
And the casting, just really quickly, let's say a studio like Paramount, they have a movie, and the movie is starring Russell Crowe. They're looking for a little black girl to play Russell Crowe's next door neighbor. She's funny. She's wisecracking. She's 8. Okay, so Paramount, the head of casting on that movie, is going to send out an email blast to all of the casting agents.
That's right.
She actually has some friends that are casting agents. I mean, not casting agents, but agencies. The Paramount casting agent is going to send out to agencies like, CESD, Innovative Artists, Coast to Coast. Top agencies when Keke was a kid. I don't know who the hell the top kid agencies are now, but those were the top kid agencies 15 years ago. And the casting agent at Paramount is going to send an email blast to all of those kid agencies. And she's going to say, hey, looking for an 8-year-old African-American girl, bubbly, funny, experienced, because she'd be working with Russell Crowe. We don't want a rookie, blah, 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 blah. And then, okay, so that goes to Coast. That's where I was at. That's where Keke was at for years. Okay, they see this casting thing, and right away, they're going through their roster. They're not saying, this is perfect for Nieko. This is perfect for her. No, they're going, this is perfect for Nieko. This is perfect for Keke. This is perfect for Taylor. This is perfect for... It's perfect for all of them. So
it's perfect for all the African-American girls out there that we're looking for just one. Yeah, I get it.
Yep. And they don't care which one of their girls book it, as long as it get booked.
Because they just want the money coming in.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a business. It's a business.
It's a business. And let's talk about for a minute, like, me and Nieko talked about this. My daughter talked about this a few months ago. We were talking about, I don't know how we were on the subject of PTSD, but I want you to think about this before you answer. We were on the subject talking about PTSD. And she said, when I was younger, a lot of those auditions and just the manner in which they were done was traumatic.
Yeah.
And she said, I can see where a lot of us kids in that industry would have benefited from therapy.
Oh yeah.
So think about that for a minute before you comment on it. And then I'm going to ask you something else, because I want you to, because we know a lot of kids in the industry that had bad turns in it, and it didn't work out well.
Right.
However, our kids pretty much stayed on the straight and narrow, and we know why. But before we say that, just give us a minute and think about what I just said about the therapy thing, okay?
I will. All right.
Yeah.
Honestly. Hello?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was like, that PTSD came from her just experiencing everything that we experienced when we came back, when we left Texas and then coming to California. So
But
I
I'm
got
glad.
it.
But I wanted to touch on. I'm glad that you touched on acting. It's a lot too with the parents. They go and get acting coaches, and
Mhm.
what you just touched on was method acting. I'm totally against kids learning method acting because,
Mhm.
like you said, they have not um fully grasped their own emotions, and
Mhm.
so you're teaching them how to trigger painful things in their life as a kid. And so,
Mhm.
my personal opinion, people say, well, if a kid has to cry in a movie, then what do? Get them tears. Pra- get practice with the teardrops. Everybody's not crying real tears in movies. That's why they have wardrobe. That's what the people are for. Just tell them to make a cry face, and
Mhm.
they'll put tears in their eyes, and them tears will run down their face. Because I adamantly fought against that. Keke does do some method acting techniques. She
Mhm.
started when she was about, I would say, maybe 13. She did a movie with Kevin Spacey, and in
Mhm.
that movie she needed to cry, and we started to dabble. Well, she was 15 because she did that, and then she did True Jackson. We started to dabble in method acting. And for those who don't know what acting is, it's exactly what Juanita said, which is you use something in your personal life to trigger a real emotion, and then you apply it to that role. Most of the time, it's some sad shit. Like she said,
Mhm.
it's very rare are you trying to. Oh, I'm going to think of my birthday party and laugh in this role. It's always my
Mhm.
grandmother died, my daddy left. It's always
Yeah.
some horrific something that you're asking someone to relive. Now, for like a Robert De Niro or something, it's okay. That's okay. There are some people that are method actors where they walk around the set all day long. If they're playing an army general, then for the next 3 months of filming the movie, that's who they are. Okay, that's cool for a grown man or a grown
Right.
woman.
Right.
Me, I wouldn't do it. I was a
It's
former actor.
detrimental for kids
Yeah, but for
because,
kids,
like you
it's
just
different.
said,
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
staying in that traumatic space for the length of that role as they are acting out that part. So you're talking about weeks and days of just being in that space of pure um, depression and just sadness that they can't understand, and they don't know how to, and sometimes they don't know how to get themselves out of it. And that's where a lot of,
It's
you
dangerous.
know,
It's dangerous.
a lot of drugs come into play with,
That's right.
when, yeah, when you get into those spaces. So, and they're not, I don't think there's not a talk about it, because I didn't even know she was method acting until it was brought to my attention after she had been doing it for so long.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had to reteach her to use acting for acting and leave her personal stuff out of it.
Right.
And that was hard because she was so used to
Right.
going. And I remember one time I asked her, I said, you can't use that anymore. She was like, oh, well, this time I just thought something maybe happened to you. I said, well, I don't want nothing to happen to me. Like,
Right.
don't kill me in your mind. Don't do me like
No,
that.
but that's real though.
Yeah.
That's real. But people have to be very careful. This is really the rule of thumb. You cannot look at this business and apply. You can't be irrational about it. You have to be logical, and you have to. My child,
Hmm.
would you go to 7-Eleven and leave them with the clerk and go home?
Hey.
Would you do that?
Hmm.
Okay, so then why would you do that?
You're right.
Why? Why? Okay, okay. My mother used to give me piano lessons, and she would drop me off at Miss Moore's house. Miss Moore
Hmm.
was the pianist at our church, so my mother knew Miss Moore. But Miss Moore had sons and people coming in and out of her house and all this kind of stuff. But my mother would drop me off. She would say, "I'll be back to get you in an hour." And then as soon as I come out there, she would give me the third degree. What happened? How was your lesson? Are you okay? Did anyone bother you? Okay. it used to drive me crazy because I'd be like, oh, mom, nobody bothered me there. But at the end of the day, in the entertainment business, you do have to talk to your child about molesters. You do
You
have to
do.
talk about your child and tell them that everybody on the set is not a nice person, that everyone on the set isn't even a Christian. Some of them don't even have beliefs. So
Hmm.
at the end of the day, you cannot take your child from a nurturing environment where they're loved by their parents and their cousins and their, I mean, it's just a great environment. And then you drop them in California and decide not to have any sense. All of a sudden, you're going to trust the strangers. Does it make sense?
And there are so many other things that can happen to your kid on the set
Yeah.
that's even more detrimental than physical molestation, because a lot of those kids get emotionally taken advantage of by being left on those sets
Oh,
with
yeah.
those grown people
Oh, yeah.
all the time. And I've never left my kid on the set. And you know me, I've never even left. I didn't do the whole spend a night thing.
Right.
The only time that I ever let her spend a night with anybody was with you guys, because we had established a relationship
Right.
and and knew each other in what we expected. So I didn't feel uncomfortable.
Right. Well, the same thing. I felt the same way, that you were trustworthy, and I could just feel. I felt a kindred spirit, a similarity in the way that we thought about life, the things that we laughed at, and really it was your observations. Like I would make certain odd observations about things, but I didn't have anybody to talk to. And then when you would start talking, I was like, you know what? She noticed the same thing that I noticed. She's
Hmm.
perceptive in the same way that I'm perceptive about certain things. And so that was the connection. And all I can say to parents, there is no right way, there is no wrong way. The only wrong way is that if you put this business in front of your child. The only wrong way is if you listen to
Exactly.
strangers over what your child is telling you. Way is if you approach this business as if it's going to magically accidentally happen, like
Hmm.
someone is going to look at your child and say how beautiful they are and how amazing they are, and all of a sudden this thing is going to happen. It's not going to happen that way. It's going to be a lot of pushing and pulling, heavy lifting that's going to come from you, because you're the only person that has that vision for your child. Nobody else is going to have it. I just told you that an agency has 100 children. So they're not sitting around waiting for your child to come through the door. Now, if your child start booking, okay, yeah, that puts you at a priority to a certain extent, but it's still not anything you can bank on, because once another kid comes and start booking, they're gonna look at that one. So if you want your child to be in entertainment, you need to do is you need to ask yourself why. Why do you want your child to be in the entertainment business? And your answer to that is what's going to dictate you. When someone asks me, why do you want your child to be, why did you want your daughter to be in the entertainment business? My answer was, I had never in my life seen anyone as talented as her. I had never seen
Hmm.
anyone who responded to direction, because I had been an actress myself and I had taught acting at high schools. And I could tell my high school students to do something and I told them 20 times. And some of them still couldn't do it. And when I worked with my 7-year-old daughter, not only could she do it, but she could do it beyond what I told her. So I was just very fascinated and her ability to retain the shit I was telling her to do. And I was like, wow, this is it. And then I asked her, and she's like, I love that, so Raven. I love that. I would love to do that. So for us, it was just a love of entertainment. It was me being
Right.
fascinated at she being able to do stuff that my older students couldn't do. And for her, it was just, I get to hang with my mom, and this is fun. But it went
Yeah.
from that to a very business mentality, and that's where you have to learn to navigate.
Right.
And that's it. So that's my advice to people: is they need to first start and ask themselves why are they doing it, and then if
Right.
they answer to that is not a good answer, then maybe they shouldn't do it.
And sometimes it can help in a lot of ways. I remember Brittany was so shy
Yeah.
prior to getting into acting. She was so shy and so timid. And in a lot of ways, when she started acting, it brought out her inner confidence.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think because of it, and this could be just with her, she didn't suffer the self-esteem teenage drama thing.
Yeah.
She's always been completely self-assured because in her mind, I remember, I remember she used to say, I really wouldn't get that put off by that. I go into meetings and basically in front of a panel full of adults and I fight for a job that hundreds of other people are going for. So I can see where that is a confidence booster. Whether you get the job or not, she's saying, I did it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, and definitely it's, but a producer told me
Mm-hmm.
something that really changed the whole trajectory for Keke and I. The point where auditioning wasn't as stressful. It's bothersome now. She's a grown woman and she don't want to be bothered with going into auditions, not because she's arrogant or she feels she's too good. It's just most of the casting agents. She's been in the business for 17 years. In
You know.
17 years, there's only a handful of new people. So
Yeah.
if it's not a new casting agent, it's like, okay, watch Hustlers, watch the stuff I've done. If I'm not variating from that. So, there's no need for me to do this
Mm-hmm.
with you. But at the end of the day, going back to when she was a kid, I had a producer tell me something that was so beneficial for us. And she pretty much said, look, when your kid comes into the room to audition, know this: we are looking to cast that person. We're
Mm-hmm.
looking to cast. We have no agenda. We don't. No kid is better than another kid. The kid that we can get through to the studio, that's the kid. We talk to the studio executives. They tell us they want this type of kid. This is who they want. And what we do is we go out and try to find that kid for them. So
Yeah.
when you walk in the room, your attitude should be, I'm here to help you get this money released so we can fix this movie. If I'm not the kid that can help you release that money, that's cool. I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna help somebody else get that money. And
Yeah.
basically, when I told that to Keke, a eureka moment for her. It was like, wow. So that would be a running joke for us, which is, okay, let's go to this audition and help people make this money.
Yeah.
And she would come out the audition and go, up. I didn't got him to make this money, and we would laugh about it. And sometimes she was right, and sometimes she was wrong, but it
Yeah.
was light for us. So we were able to
Yeah.
figure out how to make that audition stuff lighthearted.
Wow. I was talking to one of the directors that was big responsible for Brittany even getting into the industry. I was talking to him a couple of weeks ago, and he was like, where are you guys at? And I was like, well, we're back in Texas. And he was like, he had a project he was putting together, and he said, I thought of her. Um, he said, he said that I was stumped over because I was like, I know that she has to be over 18. He said, and I was just, he said, so I was like, let me make sure. And so he was telling me this, and I was like, oh, she ain't doing no naked stuff. he said, he said, he said, Juanita, no, that's not what I meant. He was like, I was thinking more so with travel.
Mm,
And I said, oh, okay. And then he was like, I
right.
said, but we not going back to no California to audition. He said, no. He said this to me. He said, no, I pretty much know her capabilities. He said, the only thing I would bring her in for is to do a chemistry read.
Okay, I can understand
And
that.
and I said,
Yeah.
I told him, I said, well, that I can understand that.
Right.
And he was like, yeah. He said, and if it depends because we might have to do it remote on video. He said, but I would prefer to do it in person. He said, but that's the only thing I would bring her in for. And then when I told him, he said, but she's 21, 22. I said, she'll be 27 on her birthday this
Right.
year. He
Right.
was like, oh wow, that's even better. And he just wanted me to shoot him some pictures. When I shot him the pictures over, he was like, she looked. He said, oh, she looks so young. I said, she looks older when you see her in person. So, but when he said that, because I remember what I told you, I said, "Oh, I'll never move back to California. If they can't do what they need to do over on video, then count us out." Because that was just ridiculous to
Right.
me.
Right.
Living and I can live somewhere else and pay. way cheaper to live and not sit there and wait on no auditions. It's not practical.
Right. Right.
Um, and I think a lot of people fall into that. Like even some of my friends' kids who moved to California now and they live there and they're like, all I see them do is like taking pictures, have a friend who's an aspiring photographer and taking pictures and putting them on Instagram and they're saying, oh well I'm a model. No, you're just taking pictures on Instagram. Like you just you just you're just taking pictures on Instagram. And I'm not hitting your hustle, but
Right.
you can take those pictures on Instagram at home where it's cheaper.
Right.
If
Well,
someone wants you, they'll get to you.
yeah, the thing that I noticed with the industry is, it really is to each his own.
Yeah.
What one person will do, and I actually heard that from Brandy's mother. She was one of my early confidants that I would call and talk to, and I would ask her things, and she would often say, "Well, you wouldn't do what I would do, so you really don't want me to tell you what I would do because you wouldn't do what I would do." And it used to irritate me. But as I got older in the industry and Keke got more and more experienced and we met more and more people, then I realized exactly what she was talking about. And she was right. Everybody, what their threshold or what they will and will do, it varies.
Hmm.
And so you can't really tell people how to do this business because what someone will do, the other one won't do,
Right.
and I sit back now and I look at a lot of the parents that have successful children in the industry, and I see the good moves and I see moves that I wouldn't have made. But who am I to judge? I'm not, here to judge. I'm here to say thank God that my daughter is sane and she's blessed, and I mean, we made it. She could walk away from the business today, and we went and set out what we wanted to do. But more importantly,
Hmm.
Juanita, we're we're good. We're good in our faith. We're good in our family, and we're good. We did not let the business do us. We didn't.
Right.
We didn't. Mm-mm. And everything wasn't perfect. But we're I can look back at the days I was in California and smile. I can because
I can too.
yeah, we had some good times together.
We had some good times. I was about to say, and let me tell you something. I mean, pat myself on the back.
Yeah,
As parents, and especially as Black parents,
yeah,
the way we all came together and we decided, hey, we out here with our kids and we want these little Black kids to
right,
be upstanding citizens and we want them to be happy, and we created this family and we
right,
got together and we had dinners, and there
yeah.
was never any arguments about anything. we
No,
we
we were a
drove.
family.
Yeah, we were a
We
family.
really did
Yeah.
recognize. We really did recognize that we were out there all trying to achieve the same thing. We were all under the same amount of stress, trying to figure things out. And we also realized that our kids needed as much normalcy as we could
Right.
possibly give them, even though it wasn't normal. It wasn't a normal environment. They weren't. They At least my kids weren't. We had no relatives in California. So my kids
Right.
virtually grew up without first cousins. They grew up without aunts and uncles. And, they were 3,000 miles away in Chicago. So my kids, that was a sacrifice. That was a big sacrifice to be out in
Right.
California and missing the birthdays and the graduations and all that stuff that your family partakes in that makes you
Hmm.
a whole person. So that's thankful that Keke turned out as well as she did. Nobody's perfect, but to grow up under those circumstances without that extended family and without that that first cousin to call and talk about your first date or are there for. It was just it was hard. It was definitely hard when she was a teenager, but you know
Yeah.
what? It is what it is. So I enjoyed speaking with you. I gotta go, like my mother said, I gotta go see a man about a dog. But
Hey, I appreciate it. I think you gave me a lot of good information and people are going to enjoy it. I appreciate you
okay.
uh coming on today, and I hope we do it again
Awesome.
sometime soon. Okay,
All right, let's
darling?
do it again. All right, talk to you
All
later.
right,
Tell
sweetie.
Nico
Bye.
and Andrew, everybody I said hey. All right.
I'm gonna ring your daughter because I know it's her birthday. I'm gonna sing her a song like you got your song
Okay,
sung,
well, go
girl.
ahead. Go ahead.
All right.
I'm sure she would love, love, love to hear. She's a very sentimental person. So, all right.
All right,
All
sweetie.
righty.
All right.
Bye bye.
Bye.